Okay, Nick, it looks like we have a good amount of our guests ready to rock and roll today. So if we can get started, and then next slide, please. I just wanted to take a moment to welcome everyone to our town hall and our town hall series. For those of you who haven't been a part of this before, it's unique in the fact that it's all about you. You drive the town hall. It's your questions. You drive the topics. What we try to do is facilitate experts from our industry. And every week, we're going to feature one of those experts who will give a quick 15-minute presentation regarding their topic. But all of our former panelists will continue to remain on our town halls so that you can continue to ask questions about previous town halls that you've been a part of. So as this continues to evolve, every week you'll have more and more experts on our town hall that you'll be able to ask questions of. A lot of the questions that we've fielded and a lot of the stuff that we've received has been COVID-19 related. However, with the experts on the panel, feel free to ask us any questions you'd like. Again, this town hall is for you, driven by you, about you. We're scheduled to stay on for 30 minutes. We typically take it to at least an hour. We will try to get to all of your questions. So if you haven't already submitted questions, you can start at any time now by clicking the Q&A button below, and Nick will get into that with you in a few minutes, but it's all driven by all your questions. And we try to get to as many as possible. Whatever we don't get to at the end of the hour, we promise that we will take the questions away to our experts and we will get those answers to you as soon as possible. Your feedback is what drives this. So recently, we took a couple of comments that we were being a little too serious on these town halls. So we thought we would change that up a little bit. Nick?
Here's the story of our lockdown sales team who cannot visit their customers face to face. We had to cancel a dozen trade shows. It's called Shelter in Place. It's the story of our curious clients who need to know their vendors are still there for them. They are wondering what the heck is happening. When will we meet again? And the one day we decided to go virtual and share great info across the internet. And at 2 o'clock every Thursday, we will proudly host Plant's Town Hall event. Plant's Virtual Lunch. Plant's Virtual Lunch. Join us Thursdays to see Plant's Virtual Lunch.
Okay, Dino, can you hear me?
We got you. Thank you.
All right, sorry, I'm having a little network issue on my end here. I think everybody else is too. Welcome everybody to the third virtual town hall hosted by Plan Companies. This meeting will be recorded and made available on our website to all attendees. Presenting today will be Jeff Shipman, President and CEO of Heartline Fitness. Heartline is the leader in fitness center design, amenity space activation, and new equipment sales and leasing. After Jeff's brief overview, we'll have a question and answer session with our panel. Look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a Q&A button on your Zoom controls. From there, you can type your question. Along with Jeff, today's panel includes Rob Francis, CEO and President of Plan Companies, Dino Uliano, Chief Revenue Officer, and Martin Kabelar, Real Estate Attorney, Becker and Poliakoff. Today, we're going to offer a quick little poll here, and our question is, before we go to Jeff, when social distancing ends, what's the first thing you're going to do? Click on your answer, and we'll share the results a little bit later. So now I'd like to hand this over to Jeff. Jeff?
Alrighty, I will just expose, I'm saying get a haircut and go to the salon. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Planned, and Rob and Dino for hosting this. This is a wonderful way to get everybody to connect and bring us together and share and contribute. So I appreciate it, and thank you for the opportunity. We've got 3 things we want to cover today, basically virtual fitness, opening solutions, what to do to communicate and get prepared, maybe some time still, but following that, really disinfecting and protecting, and how do we maintain these facilities to put people at ease and keep them open. So let's get right into it and go to the next slide, please. All right, so, whoops, there we go. 80% of our population, even prior to this pandemic, did not have a gym membership. That's actually even greater at this point. But the one thing that we really wanted to present here, and what I've been kind of communicating, is there's tons of trainers out there providing online wellness, on apps, things like that. They don't have a gym to go to. There's tons of stuff with Peloton and things like that. Where we really haven't focused in our industry is what this is about, and taking care of the mental side of it, the wellness side of it, the meditation, the rejuvenation. This is a particular app and a company that we've partnered with that does a tremendous job here. These are the types of things that are new. And I didn't want to contribute something that was more like me too, because there's tons of fitness apps out there. This is extremely unique, and what we really want to try and communicate to people that are trapped in their homes right now, this is going to make you sleep better at night. There's things that you can do in your home as far as exercising, wellness, nutritional things. An almond mocha smoothie sounds great right now, right? This app will teach you how to make that. So 16% of our population, or let's say 16% increase in people taking rejuvenating classes has been happening. There's all kinds of therapy type devices that, we're in a state of everything's kind of shut down right now, but taking care of ourselves mentally, and after that beating we put on our bodies in the gym is one of the hottest things right now in fitness. So great app here. Again, just, critical for us to really take a hard look at our mental health and not just the physical side of it. Meditation, breath work, quick fixes, restorative type things. We're even designing into our fitness centers where we're providing a recovery zone. So where we may have had a cardio, strength, free weights, things like that, how do we program in the part that rejuvenates us? Because again, 80% of the population wasn't going to the gym anyway, and they need this type of support and health too, right? So again, big critical piece of the amenity space. Here's a great app. There's a free trial out there. You just use the download Heartline code there and hammer away at it. Let's go to the next slide, please. So opening solutions. I'm honestly being bombarded with what to do, right? And a lot of our clients, this is an unknown. It's a very unknown to us and everybody really in this situation. So what I'm really trying to convey here is some considerations. My crystal ball, the batteries are dead on it, so it doesn't really allow me to predict exactly what to do or what all the answers are. But I can tell you from what I've been hearing and what we've been actually preparing for, these are the things that you want to consider. So one, social distancing is key. This virus is transported through the air and water droplets, and you can pick it up on your hands and you touch your face. Everybody kind of knows this, but when we're talking about opening up a gym, everyone really needs to understand you're not just standing in the gym breathing naturally, right? Okay, you've got about 2 liters worth of air volume that you can push out max in your lungs. If you're running on a treadmill, you're probably throwing 1.5 liters out every single time you take a breath, right? And if you're asymptomatic, you can really contaminate a lot of things very quickly. So what I'm seeing people recommend is absolutely have people wear masks. The other thing that you can consider in kind of pre-opening type planning here, obviously communication is huge, and I'm going to talk about that. Spread the equipment out. If you're, in a region where it's nice and it's sunny and warm outside, take your treadmills outside, right? Get them out of that confined environment, and just, or shut them down. People can walk and run outside very easily. If you have to have equipment on, provide the equipment that's really essential, where you couldn't really just do that, walk outside, sunny, rain, or whatever you want to get it done. Again, requiring the mask, you got a lot of air that can kind of, contaminate equipment, floors, walls, windows, ventilation systems. Be very cautious with how you're distancing things in the gym. Staggering your layout, just talked about. The time that you're actually open, right? So you don't have to have this thing open 24 hours a day. You can limit it to 3 sessions of an hour a day, depending on, where we're at in the state after this peak and things start to ease up. Require sign-up sheets, require waivers. You need to start considering things with, down to the inconvenience of somebody's manning that fitness center and taking their temperature before they walk in. So there's nothing that you can't do, even if it's an inconvenience to the people that are actually using it, to take precautionary measures, right? If you're not doing some of these things, people aren't going to use the fitness center anyway. And I can kind of, what's going on in our gyms right now, people's mental ease of, I'm ready to go back into that gym with 100 people and, Joe next to me who could be sneezing and just wiped his hands on my handrail, things like that. That's going to be tough, right? And I really feel that there's going to be a pressure on the amenity space where people are going to have comfort. We're selling a ton of home equipment. But again, I think this is a smaller space than most of the amenity corporate office buildings, where people can have some ease and some comfort if it's done right. All right, so let me just talk about communication. You need to have a plan, right? You need to have signage. You need to be able to have email blasts going out, wiping down the equipment, disinfectant type stuff. You need to be prepared to open this and make sure you've got a little bit of a stockpile of it. We're in for probably a shortage of disinfectants in the next 30 days or so when things start to ease up. And it's extremely hard to find these types of products right now. Like I said, taking people's temperatures, communication is key. I've got lifestyle directors that, I've encouraged, do a Zoom meeting, right? There's no reason you can't have your residents come into a Zoom meeting and you're in the multi-purpose room running a fitness class. Why not? That's no different than, some of our Peloton, if I can say that on this webinar, but that's really what they're doing. They're streaming that type of video. Ensure management and your instructors or whatever you have going on in the building, when you do open the center at whatever level it is, make sure you have communicated fully to everybody so they understand the do's and don'ts. Lock down doors. If you've got multiple entrances into the fitness center, don't have 5 ways in, right? 1 way in, 1 way out. Control where you can kind of contaminate things. The last piece in communication too is, I don't want to keep moving here, but if you do have an event where someone was in the center and now there is possibly a contamination issue, you need to have a plan for that, right? Don't wait till it happens. Think about it now, get informed, get educated so that you can react properly. Now's the time to do that research. All right. Just last little bit of information here where I've kind of documented how long the virus kind of stands on equipment and different surfaces. Again, these are considerations. I got this information from a publication from Johns Hopkins, but in the air and on fabric, about 3 hours, 4 hours copper and wood, 24 hours cardboard, 42 on metal, and 72 on plastic. And the reason I really wanted to bring this up, because you can find this on Google, there's a lot of metal and there's a lot of plastic on fitness equipment, all right? And these are the 2 biggest numbers that are up here. So really ensuring that you're spreading this out, you're disinfecting it, you're controlling that environment, you're communicating. These are all the key things in prepping this space. And again, we're going to see a swell in the amount of people that are comfortable going to the amenity fitness center rather than the gym. If you haven't done anything with preventative maintenance or kind of a facility assessment where is the equipment going to last because it's going to get used more, you're going to want to find somebody to take a look at the equipment seriously to ensure that it works, because limited time to get in these fitness centers and you've got down equipment, not going to be good. Next slide. Disinfect and protect. Okay, so this, I know Plan can probably speak to some of this stuff here too, so I invite you to obviously bring in the questions, and Plan can help answer here too, but this is really the ongoing plan, okay? In order for people to be comfortable in this environment, you need to demonstrate what you're doing, right? Visually. If you've ever gone into a restaurant bathroom a while back, sometimes on the back of the door, you see where somebody has recently checked, right? I recommend that you do something like this so that people, the guests, the residents that are using these facilities, they know you've been in there to do some sort of disinfecting or cleaning, or in your sign up and your waivers and your things that you're providing, let them understand what your plan is. This is going to help them be at a little bit of ease that there is a plan in place and taking care of this equipment is being done. So I wanted to just talk a little bit again about the virus, and I'm not an expert, I'm a fitness guy, but there's a difference between bacteria and a virus, okay? Bacteria and things like that sit on things and it grows. It's a biological type pathogen. The virus is actually surrounded by a lipid layer, and then it kind of has this messenger DNA inside of it that eventually comes out, does all the harm that we're seeing. The reason you're washing your hands, right, with detergent and the soap and all that is to break down that fat. It's just like when you're washing your dishes and you use Dawn, you want to get that outer layer gone, right? Because the part that's inside is fragile, right? And you can disintegrate that very easily. So when you're looking at, again, you know, I'm not the expert here. Plan's probably a little bit more of an expert here, but you want to use detergents, you want to use disinfectants, things like that, that break down that lipid layer to get to that messenger. My caution here for you guys with fitness centers is there's a lot of stuff out there that's corrosive. So chlorine, ammonia, bleach, things like that, you can damage the equipment that, like I said, is fairly precious to be kept up using. You don't want to put those types of detergents on there. So there are multiple options out there. One of the ones that we've been using as of late is an activated hydrogen peroxide type solution or a hydrogen peroxide type solution. It's got a faster kill rate and it actually turns into just water and air at the end of the day. And you're not going to corrode keyboards, consoles, and electronics. All right. Gym wipes, we've got them coming in. Everybody wants them. That's a good way to wipe the equipment down before and after. And then, you know, there's products out there that help protect the equipment and the growth of these biological virus type applications. So that's some of the pictures that you see in here. And as things try to attach, you have these little spikes with some of these products that actually break that bacteria down, break the staph. These are all hospital grade type products that I've been talking about, but these are things that you can do to disinfect and then protect the equipment from any of this stuff being transferred by touch. But again, a lot of the transmission of this is coming through the air and masks, and, you know, just really be cautious in your plan, how many people you have in your facility. Obviously stick to social distancing. And the more you can kind of consider disinfecting and cleaning way more than you used to. And anything that, you know, just like, where do you change your clothes and do you allow your showers to be open and things like that? Really limit the opportunity for this to contaminate different areas and keep people safe. With that, I think I'm running out of time here, and I'll flip it back to Nick. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. That was great information. Really appreciate it. As we get started here, let's take a look at our poll here. I'm going to end polling and share the results. So the question was, when social distancing ends, what's the first thing you're going to do? And it looks like it's almost a tie between get together with friends and get a haircut, with eat a meal in a restaurant third, and wow, Jeff, I don't know. Go to the gym was number 4. So
I didn't pick that one purposely.
okay, good. All right, great. Let's see.
Nick, just a quick,
Yeah.
if I may, just jump in here. I noticed that Peter Theropoulos joined us as well. So just a reminder to everyone, you're free to ask questions to any of our panelists, past and present. Martin Cavalar on legal, Rob's here to discuss any janitorial concerns, and of course myself for security, and Peter for anything technology, for those challenges you may be having with Zoom or any of the software or technology things you're using out there. I just wanted to put that out there, as I noticed Peter had joined.
All right, Dino, thanks. So we have a number of resources on our COVID-19 page at plancompanies.com/COVID-19. That's where you'll be able to find recordings of this and our previous webinars. Should you have any questions after this meeting, you can reach us at marketing@plancompanies.com. And be sure to join us for next week's town hall. The speakers will be our friends from City Fire Equipment, who will discuss the balancing act of fire and life safety during the COVID-19 pandemic. Down at the, should be at the bottom of your panel, you should see a Q&A button on your Zoom panel, and that's where you can ask your questions. And we're going to kick off our Q&A session. Before we do that, Martin Cavalar of Becker and Plykov has a few remarks that he'd like to share with the group. Martin?
Yes, thank you. And thank you again to Plan for hosting the town hall this week and inviting me back. I wanted to talk just quickly. A number of states are putting these executive orders into place now that are ceasing all what they call non-essential construction projects. And again, like many of the orders, as we've discussed week to week, these are state by state, case by case basis decisions. But New Jersey just put such an order into effect. And for those on the line in New Jersey, that will start as of April 10th, so this Friday at 8:00 p.m. And ultimately, whether or not construction is permitted will depend on the nature of the activity. I'm sure this will result in a lot of questions, but I think everyone should operate under the general principle that whatever it is you're trying to do construction related is probably not permitted. Then take a look at the executive order and look at the exceptions and see, does it reasonably fit within one of those exceptions? And if it doesn't, and do that in consultation with your counsel, then you shouldn't be undertaking that work. And that was the comment I just wanted to put out there for those who don't know, that New Jersey has now also put in its own cease order on construction activities.
Okay, Martin, thanks. I appreciate that. Okay, time for our Q&A. First question is for Jeff. Jeff, should property managers throw away exercise mats, balls, and bands? You're on mute, Jeff.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'd say no. This stuff doesn't stay on equipment forever, and most gyms have been shut down for 2-3 weeks at this point. What I would be more concerned with is the type of equipment that may get closer to someone's face and things like that. Mats is almost like, again, what they're doing with it really is the issue, right? If they're coughing and breathing and that kind of stuff on it, just touching it with your hands and things like that, not a big deal. But if you've got certain equipment where it is getting closer to their face and they can breathe on it and things like that, yeah, you're going to have more likelihood of contamination that way. But there's a lot of products out there in the fitness world that you don't really have to worry about that too much. You're not bringing that stuff that close to your face.
Just jumping in, completely agreed. I wouldn't throw away your mats or equipment. I'd use the right disinfectant, CDC approved, EPA disinfectants that will kill the virus versus throwing out good mats or exercise equipment because you just use the right product and make sure it's applied the right way.
Yeah.
So I agree.
And to Rob's point too, you need to clean this stuff anyway.
Yeah. So,
because there's stuff growing on mats and all this stuff anyway. So if you haven't been doing it, yeah, you got to clean this stuff.
Okay. All right, Jeff, thanks. Question for Martin. Noise in condos. Want to purchase an exercise machine in the unit, but not sure about causing a noise nuisance.
Okay, so while we're under this executive or under these executive stay-at-home orders, obviously fitness at home is something that's becoming more and more prevalent. And so when it comes to the association's rules and regulations, you still have to follow them, right? So the question is, how much noise is being put out there, and is it an unreasonable amount? Meaning, is it more than what the hypothetical reasonable person would expect in living in a condominium? If it generates a significant amount of noise, it's probably going to be considered too much noise. So yes, you could potentially put yourself in line for a noise nuisance violation. So if you're going to select equipment like that, you probably want to select something that is not going to make as much noise. Probably not a treadmill where you're running and stomping on it. Maybe something more like an elliptical or something like that. That's not going to make as much noise. But if it does make noise, you could still be violating the nuisance regulations of your community's governing documents.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, I just want to ask Jeff if he had any suggestions on the type of equipment.
Actually, yeah, I do. I was going to jump in here. So, treadmills, you're about 7 times your body weight every time your heel strikes, right? So that kind of thump carries through, right? Floor to floor. So in our commercial clients, we have products flooring that helps dampen that. I don't recommend doing treadmills in condos, to be honest with you. People are going to hear it, right? So again, going the bikes, the ellipticals, things where you don't have so much impact on that exercise. But again, I think the caution is there, right? A lot of people are still doing the bands and the balls and, all this virtual fitness stuff, and they're jumping up and down. That's creating noise. So everyone needs to be aware of that, whether it's a product or it's just the person.
Okay, great. Question for Rob. There's been some concern about cleaning crews inadvertently spreading COVID-19. What if they carry contaminated supplies from another property? What if they're infected and it's dormant?
So I'll to address that concern, the janitorial teams, they must clean and disinfect the equipment that they're using in one property that they're bringing to another. They have to be very methodical and disciplined about cleaning whatever they brought from one building to another. And that would include their uniforms as well. So they should wash the clothes or wear a fresh set going to another building. Legal aspects, I could go to Martin on that, but you really do need to have a process or procedure to wash and clean and disinfect the equipment and the clothes. And then for the teams themselves, they should make sure and monitor their own health, make sure they're healthy. If they're not feeling well, they should alert their supervisor and take those precautionary steps as well. So those are very important things going from building to make sure you're not cross-contaminating. And in case I don't get to jump in, I went with haircut as well. And on virtual, I've been changing it up and doing meditation, which has been very healthy for me, as well as cardio and strength. So changing up my routine, which has been very good. So just wanted to add that. But Martin, on a legal aspect, if there's anything in terms of moving from building to building, but those are the steps that we're taking.
Yeah, one of the things you could do in your building is if you have somebody coming in to do cleaning and, it's a large company that may have been at other properties, is you can ask certain screener questions. And, some of those questions could include what's your process to disinfect the materials so that you have some assurance that these things are being done. That would all be permissible. For you to ask those types of questions, as well as the people who are actually coming into the building. You can screen them and ask them questions. Have they had any contact in the last 14 days with anyone who is positive or presumed positive or who is quarantining? Have they traveled outside of the country in the last 14 days? Anything like that. There's a questionnaire on our page for guests and visitors, and you could give them that same questionnaire. So.
Okay, great. Question for Jeff. What has been the most effective way to get gym users to clean the equipment after each use?
Yeah, so great question. You really need to put the wipes And I'm recommending wipes. The sprays, you're actually contaminating the bottle, and you're not necessarily cleaning the bottle after you sprayed it on the equipment, and all the spray is not necessarily great for the equipment either. So using wipes would be the first recommendation. The second recommendation would be put a big sign right in front of them and the wipes close to the cardio or whatever it is, so that they don't have to go across the gym and it's just glaring at them, right? Unless you have a manned fitness center and you could kind of hawk what's going on, the easier you can make that process to wipe it down before they use it and wipe it down after they use it, that's going to help you be effective in the actual user cleaning the product.
Okay, great. Let's see, we have a question for Martin. Martin, does the management company have the legal right to access an apartment and have it professionally cleaned by a CertPro type of company if the tenant has tested positive and is in the hospital?
Okay, so here, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about an apartment in the sense of a rental property or a condominium unit in the sense of a condo association. Generally, the response to this is going to be no. You don't have the right to do that. So in both scenarios, you know, the owner of the building or the condo association has a right to go in and effectuate emergency repairs or to do things that may cause damage to the common elements or harm to the residents, right? But as Jeff was talking about earlier, and while none of us are, you know, doctors or scientists, we can only rely on the advice that's put out by the CDC and others with respect to how long these things are on surfaces. There is no danger as long as that unit is sealed and closed off, right? So you're not going to be spreading anything that was in that unit out. You might want to instead clean the areas, the common areas around that unit, outside of that unit. Now, the circumstance where this might change is if you had to go into that unit for an emergent repair. There's a burst leaking pipe in that unit that's causing damage somewhere else. In that circumstance, I would say, okay, yes, you have access to do the repair. And because that person you know has COVID-19, you should actually, you know, I would think you are required at that point to hire somebody to come in and disinfect that unit before you have the person come in and do the repair. That would be the limited circumstance where I'd say you have the permission to do that. Now, if you wanted to seek the permission of the tenant, that's entirely different. But again, you might be doing more harm than good, because now at that point you're exposing whoever it is that's going in to clean the unit to something that may not be necessarily, or something they may not need to get exposed to, because that owner could be in the hospital for a week and any concern about anything in that unit would have dissipated by that time.
Okay, great. Martin, thank you. I've got a question for Peter, a technical question. Tech-wise, is Google Hangouts on the same level as Zoom or MS Teams for hosting webinars or meetings?
It's more at the MS Teams level. Yes, it does video conferencing, but it's more of a collaborative tool like Teams. So if you're looking for instant chatting, you're looking for calendar items, assuming that you're using Google Calendaring, if you're looking to make calls on the fly, audio and video, again, all three of them are the same. Sharing files, Zoom doesn't share files. Collaborative, you can upload files, but you can't share them that easily. So I thumbs up on Hangouts if you Hangouts. I mean, if you're in a Google environment.
Okay, great.
Peter, I'm sorry. Can I add to that? Because there's been a lot of talk this week about Zoom and some of the concerns out there. Do you have any comments about it or anything that we should be thinking about when it comes to Zoom?
Zoom is a fantastic platform. Where they lack, and they've known about it since last year, is their end-to-end encryption, which in other words is the data that's going from one end to the other is not encrypted, so anybody can hijack the session. They could be watching us now and they're not invited. So school systems, government institutions, Fortune 500 companies are asking everyone not to use Zoom until supposedly the CEO said that within 90 days they'll have all the security holes fixed. Again, it depends how confidential the meetings are, but from school systems and stuff, what was happening there is these hijackers of these sessions would start talking profanity to the kids. They would be throwing up pornographic material on their screens and so on and so forth. Even the FBI came out and said they're violating every privacy law and HIPAA law under the sun. So just have to be careful with using Zoom, though Zoom is a very high performance system. They just have to do the right thing and fix the security issues that they have.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, thanks, Peter. Question for Jeff. Is there any maintenance needed while a fitness room is shut down so that when it reopens, it's safe to use after extended downtime?
Yes, that is the bingo question. And I know who it's from, Ben. Yeah, you should absolutely take care of that right now. The one challenge we have is we really shouldn't be out on the road. So, we're Heartline. I hate to kind of pitch us here, but we are providing some, disinfect and protect type services here. But really, once things kind of taper back down and we can kind of legally get back out there, you should take care of those things now. Like I said, there's going to be more pressure on the fitness center with the usage there, and you're probably going to dial down the time that people can actually get in there. You really want to maximize the ability for your equipment to perform and operate at peak performance. So getting the maintenance done before you open up is key. Absolutely. Great question, Ben.
Good, great, thank you. Question for Martin. Legal fitness questions. Do apartment gyms legally need to be closed during COVID-19? Can't have two at a time. I'm not sure what that means.
So in New Jersey, gyms should be closed. Check your state's executive orders. In New Jersey, for example, the governor ordered all gyms closed. So all apartment buildings, condo associations, any type of gym should be closed to the members. It's not a matter of having only one person at a time in there or two people at a time in there. Those areas are supposed to be closed. Another question that we got is, do we just leave the gym as is for the time being, or do we lock away equipment? I think that depends on what your concern is, right? If your concern is that somebody could get into the gym and steal the equipment, that might be different, right? If you're not able to physically lock the gym. I don't see a legal reason otherwise to put the equipment away, though there might be a practical reason if you don't want residents coming and taking equipment out of the gym, for example, during this time when everyone is staying in their units. So you can just leave the gyms as is from a legal perspective. You don't need to go in and do anything with them, but I would recommend that you lock them or close them off.
I'd like to piggyback on Martin's comment there and statement from a security standpoint. I have heard a lot over the last couple of weeks that although amenity spaces have been locked down, residents have been trying to access them. It's imperative that if you do lock them down, whether or not they're able to be secured through a locked door, make sure your security team or your cameras you're paying attention. Even beyond gyms, I've heard because the weather's gotten nice, people are opening up their barbecue pits. And it's closed. And because residents feel, well, it's outdoors, we should be able to do this. The weather's nice. Make sure you over communicate with your residents to make sure that they understand that closed means closed. And the more communication you give to the residents, the less of an issue it could be for your front desk staff, your security team, and the janitors who are making sure that everything's locked down and secured and clean. So over communicate, I would say, on those lockdown areas, and then make sure you have your security team or your team in place, ensuring that folks aren't violating the lockdown.
Yeah, and from another question that was up there, I mean, I would wait until these rules and laws have been passed and social distancing is not in effect to have people come back, especially if the gyms have the equipment, packed in. From what I'm seeing, you really do want to observe having these amenity spaces closed off, and to make sure that people are not going in them when they're closed off until the time's ready and it's right to have them come back. When they come back, to have them disinfected and cleaned the right way, and to then maintain it in a way that's visible and systematic for your residents and for the health of the building. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Question for Jeff. Jeff, when you were talking about the virtual wellness app, I guess there was some sound coming in. Some of the people couldn't hear what it was. Could you talk about that a little bit more and say what the name is again?
There it is right there. Three Sages, SAGES. And there's a promo code Heartline. That'll get you free access. But it is a wellness, Sips of Wellness tagline. And it's a unique app. In the world of every personal trainer you can possibly think of is on Instagram and YouTube and things like that. We've got Peloton, we've got Wellbeats. We have a ton of virtual fitness that's out there already. And the communication on the slide really was, here's something that we all can use, right? 80% of the population does not have a gym membership, and we're all going a little nutty. I have a 2-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old in this house, and my wife. And it's, I tune in at night and I sleep like a baby, right? So very, very healthy for all of us, even if you're not, as into fitness as others. So.
Okay, great. Question for Martin. Should an association have waivers filled out by unit owners prior to reopening the facilities?
So I'm going to assume that the question means waivers filled out about using the facilities due to risks with COVID-19, right? I don't know that it's necessary to have a waiver specific to COVID-19. I think you would put a letter out to the residents to let them know the gym is reopening. Here is the process we are following to disinfect. And as always, the gym is used at your own risk. What you should have, though, and every community should really have, is like every public gym has that you go to, a waiver covering all the risks inherent about gym use, right? So not just COVID-19 or something that you could get in a gym, but the physical injury aspect of using a gym. That fact that they've consulted with their medical professionals, and if they have a precondition or something like that they're able to use the equipment. You want to have that across the board for all of your users in any community. So with respect to a specific COVID-19 waiver because you're reopening the gym, no. A much broader waiver for everything, yes. Okay,
great. Jeff, what are your thoughts about loaning out gym equipment to tenants for those who regularly visited the gym? Weights, bands, mats, balls, with the contract that is signed?
Sure. So I'm going to make a comment and then I'm going to refer back to Martin. But I think as long as social distancing is in place, you're not borrowing your neighbor's cup of sugar or flour or any of that either. So I would not do that, and I wouldn't want your equipment to necessarily disappear when you need it back in the fitness center.
Yeah, from a legal perspective, I would say don't do it. Only because one, if the equipment was used by somebody, though highly unlikely, people are going to be worried about that, the touching of the equipment. But two, more importantly, you don't know if you'll ever get that equipment back, and also, there runs risk of injury while they have that equipment. And while it might not be the best claim in the world, in this day and age, we're in a litigious society. If somebody were to be injured, the association, the apartment owner, they all have insurance. Everybody knows that. So in all likelihood, there would be a lawsuit that would come from that. So I would not recommend it.
Okay, great. Jeff, what equipment, if any, will my tenants need in the world of virtual fitness?
Sure. So, bands, balls, if they're into yoga, obviously there's yoga mats, yoga blocks. We're selling a ton of bikes, small little upright bikes, recumbent bikes that can fit into units. And it's a little bit of a tricky question with virtual fitness, right? There's virtual fitness that you can put in a multi-purpose room with a 90-inch TV screen, and you hit a kiosk and it runs a class, right? So if we're addressing that, I would say that almost comes back to limit that space to a few users and then run the class, right? If you have that capability or you have that stuff in your facility already. If you're running a virtual class and the residents are in their home, again, that's really, that's up to the trainer. You can get a lot done without any equipment at all. So hopefully that helps answer your question.
That was great. Martin, how should elevators be addressed with multiple residents entering and not keeping social distancing?
So this question depends on who the residents are that are not keeping social distancing, right? If they live in the same unit together, they can all get in the elevator and ride up together. If your elevator is not big enough to keep the social distancing, the 6 feet apart, and they don't live in the same unit, they ought to wait for the next elevator. And if you're having trouble or difficulty, you should probably post signs about that to ask everyone to adhere to the social distancing requirements, which should include not getting in the elevator with others, and to respect that, so that you don't make other people feel uncomfortable. And because frankly, it's a requirement of, pretty much all of the governor's executive stay-at-home orders that you also have to keep social distancing. So again, it depends on if they live in the same unit or not.
Yeah. And if I can, I want to kind of piggyback on it because it reminds me of a question I got earlier this week regarding packages and safe distancing from staff. So I think, remember, there's been a lot of talk about how long this virus will stay on packages. So a lot of buildings are taking on different ways of getting packages in residents' hands. There's been a lot of deliveries of packages. So do not have residents come down to retrieve packages, have them delivered to the units. But what's been added to this now is, well, is there a time we should keep them in the package room? Or what are some ways? And some buildings have gotten creative in some of these amenity spaces that are not being used. They're locking packages down in these areas and on a daily basis so that they can have 3-day rotations in when they're being delivered. Example being a gym that's not being used right now will become package room Monday. Another space will be package room Tuesday. When the items are sitting in the package room Monday and it's now Thursday, we deliver those Monday packages, sterilize, disinfect that room, and then load up the next packages again. So people are getting creative. It's all over the map on what I've heard. So not being a COVID-19 expert, but I've heard a lot of comments and suggestions about how long the virus stays on the surface. It went from 24 hours to 3 weeks to 6 months. No one really has a final answer on that. But staggering packages, keeping your staff safe. I can't harp on that enough. Keeping that distance between residents and your janitors, your maintenance folks, your security guards. These people are vital. You need them in the building. So keeping that safe distance is something I hope everyone's focusing on. Thank you.
Great.
Nick, did we have any further questions?
Sorry, Dino. Yeah, it looks like we've got a couple more coming in. The panel would like to take a look at the questions and
Sure.
claim one or two.
Hey, Peter, you want to do the questions on Skype versus Microsoft Teams? What do you think?
So here's the amazing thing about there's two types of Skypes. There's Skype, which is the free version that's consumer based, and Skype for Business. Skype for Business is being discontinued because it was consumed in Microsoft Teams. Skype Microsoft is going to continue supporting it. What we just found out recently is Skype and Teams can actually communicate with each other. So if an organization is running as their corporate platform on Microsoft Teams, and they have non-employees or clients or whatever using Skype, they can actually communicate with each other, which is amazing, because imagine now the whole world is used to Skype but not really Teams. You'll be able to have video conferencing calls and so on and so forth, and still be able to collaborate with non-users. Now, Hangouts, Google, well, different environment. Zoom, again, different environment, but because Microsoft owns Skype and Microsoft, of course, owns Teams, is now actually, for my prediction, I think they're going to overtake most of the corporate environments with Teams. And Skype is just another great solution for those that just want a free version of what Teams does. Though Teams, there's a free version too. So both of them I consider in the same family.
Right. I wish Zoom would get its security stuff fixed in the next 60 or 90, because I do think Zoom is very functional and a great system, but they just got to get their act together.
Yeah, to that point, Peter, how do you think security on Teams and Skype stacks up? Do you think they're the same type of security concerns that we're talking about with Zoom, or are they doing it better?
No, they're exceptionally better. because school systems are migrating. And when I say school systems, just the articles I'm reading, worldwide school systems all over the world are switching over to Teams. Teams is now, the Zoom is, I agree, Zoom is just a very robust, very user-friendly platform. But now Microsoft is concentrating and focusing their development services on Teams. They're going to pick up enough momentum that my prediction again is they're going to pass up Zoom within the year. They're going to have more functionality, more robust, just more integrated into other systems, where I don't think Zoom is going to be able to keep up at some point. I don't think they have the dollars and cents and the infrastructure to do that. But no, Teams is, to answer your question, yeah, it is a very secure platform.
Great, thank you, Peter. Question for Dino. What if packages contain medicine, work, food? Can the management company and a senior citizen independent living apartment complex, non-HUD, hold packages for 3 days?
No, absolutely not. So I'm glad that question was presented. So anything perishable or medicines or things that are deemed to be needed immediately or can go bad. Hopefully these packages are identified when we receive them. They should be. In most cases they are. And that needs to get to your residents immediately. So the 3-day rule or capacity is for non-perishables and non-medical related items. To that note, I'd also like to, Martin, I know I keep going at you here, but some legal, I've heard you talking recently about some legal things to consider for emergency personnel that may have to come into the building. If you don't mind sharing your thoughts on that.
Sure. I know a lot of the buildings are putting restrictions on guests and visitors coming to their building. And what we advise all of our clients is that is fine, including having any maybe accepted visitors fill out questionnaires. That's fine too. But if you have emergency medical personnel responding to your building, without question, they need to be let in and led up to where they're responding to. There should be no, questionnaire required of them. There should be no restriction on their access. They're coming to the building for a life safety purpose. You need to let them in. You need to let them in right away, uninterrupted, and should be doing everything you can to get them up to where they need to go as soon as possible. Now, of course, on the back end of that, you're going to want to know where they went, what they accessed, so that you can make sure to clean and disinfect. But absolutely, you should not be restricting those people from getting to the building.
Okay. Another question from Martin. If you see, 2, 3, 4, 5 people hanging out in common areas, what can a property manager do about it legally?
So I think you have to approach this from a practical perspective first, right? You would, of course, not come within 6 feet of these people, but you try to determine and ask them, do you guys live together? If they don't live together and they don't live together, you could say, hey, look, there are the state's rules in place about social distancing. Most of your common areas, honestly, by this point should be closed. So if you have a lounge, for example, or not just the gyms or a playroom, all of those things should be shut down and closed. Residents shouldn't be permitted to access those areas and congregate in those areas. Dino was talking about the grills before, the outdoor grills. You should be closing those common areas. The one common area that really will remain open, obviously, be your lobby, because that's how people come in and out of the building. I know a lot of buildings have taken the furniture out of the lobby, for example, to discourage people from sort of congregating there, because they come downstairs to get out of their unit and then they wind up sitting in the lobby, and that puts not just the staff at risk but other residents at risk. So I know a lot of people have done that, and obviously they need access to the hallways. But I think you go practical first and ask them to disband, and if they're not willing to or they don't, contact your local health official and see if there's something that they can do or recommend that you do to take care of that. That's not a situation where you would call the police, but I think you call the local health official and see if they're able to provide you assistance or guidance. You could also, obviously, if you have an attorney, contact us. We can send a letter if you know who the residents are, and you could start to fine them too after that for violating rules and regulations that have been put in place.
Okay,
Thanks, Martin. And I just wanted, sorry, Nick, as we're closing in on the end of the hour here, there are just a few more questions in the queue that we will absolutely get to. But if there's anyone who wanted to drop a quick question, we'll keep the line open for you. Otherwise, it looks like we only have a couple more to get to, and we'll wrap our session.
Okay, and another from Martin. If tenants stay at least 6 feet apart, is it okay for them to sit outside together?
So this goes again to where are they sitting, right? If they're sitting in a closed area that's been closed off, a common area that's been closed off, then they shouldn't be there in the first place. Of course, if they are sitting in an area that's not closed off outside the front of the building on the sidewalk, yes, they can sit there as long as they are 6 feet apart, adhering to social distancing. You are allowed to go outside for walks and exercise and things of that nature. But if you have a playground, an outdoor area with, chairs and grills and things of that nature, you should close all those off to discourage people from congregating in larger groups. If they want to get out and go for a walk, sidewalks available to them. If I know in New Jersey now a lot of the parks are closed, so you're not able to go to those either. But we kind of have to all live and deal with this. But again, so if they're congregating in an area that you closed off, you can take action. If they're out on the sidewalk 6 feet apart, there's not much you're going to be able to do about it.
Okay. Question for Jeff about what products are safe to use on equipment.
Yeah, so I can comment here just specific to the equipment, but I think Rob definitely chime in here at the back end of this. Sure. You don't want to put corrosive type disinfectants on the products, and that would be the strength and the cardio. Anything that can kind of, just tear down consoles, the membranes, get inside the electronics, and kind of short circuit things. The vendors are recommending don't use any type ammonia type products. I would say if you've ever experienced a fitness center that's close to a pool, their strength and equipment rusts a lot quicker if it's not in that humid chlorine type environment. So we've been using things that disinfect, depending on the brand and the specific type that you use, with Simple Green. But what we're recommending these days is a hydrogen peroxide based cleaner. The kill times are pretty quick, and if you can get an activated, they call it AHP, the kill times are much quicker, and that solution actually turns into oxygen and water at the end of the day and is not corrosive to the finish on any of the strength equipment, the consoles, the electronics. So really making sure that you're using a product that's safe for the equipment, because again, if it's down, you've got more people in your amenity space, limited equipment that you're allowing them to use. The last thing you want to do is destroy the equipment because you're cleaning it with the wrong stuff. So Rob, you may have some specific brands.
I told the questioner, I gave her my email and our COOs to give a list of the supplies that we're using in the gyms, because I don't have them off the top of my head, but you did nail it in terms of the type of supplies you want to use in the gyms. Yeah. So
thank you both, guys. And I just want to mention, not to cut you off, Jeff, but we have quite a few questions or comments around pools, which is good to see, because we got a guy for that, don't we? And we're probably going to be lining him or them up soon enough. So we'll be able to literally dive into pools more in future town halls. So I think that's all the questions that we had for today's session. Thank you so much to the panelists. Great job as always. Jeff, welcome to the panel. It was a pleasure having you.
Great addition.
We are going to answer just one or two more questions here that are out there and received that we can handle, and I think they're going to be directed towards Martin. And then upon conclusion of that, we will have some final comments, and then we'll wrap up for today. So, Martin?
Yeah, so there's a couple questions specific to pools. Can we talk about pools? Can we open pools? Is anyone opening their pools? So in New Jersey, the pool right now cannot be open to residents, meaning you cannot use the pools, hot tubs for swimming, bathing, sunbathing around the pool, or any other types of gatherings. However, the association can take steps to ready the pool to be open and maintain the system, provided that there's no construction or repair activity necessary in order to do that with respect to the pool. And it's actually recommended that you do so that the pool doesn't sit stagnant for too long, right? So you can have your company come and put the chemicals in the pool, start the filtration up, run the pool, and then do your weekly, I think it is, sometimes even daily testing and maintenance of the pool, but no one can actually go in and use the pool. So there's a difference between being open to the residents and ready to be open. You can get ready to be open, but you shouldn't be opening the pool for use to the residents. And again, all that assumes that you're not undertaking any construction activity. So if you have some resurfacing that's necessary or tiling work that's necessary, that is not permitted in New Jersey, at least anyway at this time, because that would be considered non-essential construction.
I'd like just to add one aesthetic comment to that. A green pool when I'm trapped in my house is not very appealing, right? A nice crystal clear blue one that I could dive into someday might help me upstairs a little bit.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And from the green pool perspective too, you want to be careful that you're not creating a situation where you then have a cesspool with insects and things of that nature, because that would become a health and safety concern to the residents. And so that is one of the reasons that, you know, we recommend to some extent you get the pool ready and you do some maintenance, but you just don't open it to the residents.
So that concludes our Q&A, and really, again, appreciate everyone who's attended, the people on the panel. Next week, Ray Venturino will be doing the City Fire presentation. You don't want to miss that. Always great to hear what City Fire has to say. And stay tuned. So another quick comment, you know, we had you all signing up weekly. Now, once you sign up for our town hall, you're automatically signed up for future town halls. The panelists will continue to come out so once you've seen them, they'll be back. So tell us what you think. Give us your feedback. Tell us what you'd like to see and what you want us to talk about. We appreciate the comments. Believe me, we appreciate everything. We read everything. It's been a pleasure. So we'll continue to do it. Thank you so much. What we're going to do now, a little bit of a treat. Nick's going to close us out with a little bit of music today. Our panelists are going to go away, and we'll have a little bit of music on so you don't just have a quiet screen here. And we're going to give you a little bit of time to take notes on what you see on the screen, any information you might need. We're going to leave the lines open while we play the music. Panelists, thank you again. Please close out. You can go away. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And Nick?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great discussion today, guys. Thanks.